All right, ready to dive into something big.
Let's do it.
We're tackling the future of humanity this time.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Yeah, this book really digs into how AI could be way more than just another cool tech thing, right? Like, it could actually reshape, well, pretty much everything.
It really does. It pushes you to think beyond just, robots taking over the world kind of stuff.
Yeah, which we hear a lot about.
Right, exactly.
So what really struck me, and I think this is where the book gets really interesting, is this idea that AI could actually help us solve some of the biggest problems we face as a global society.
Absolutely. The book really focuses on this idea of AI empowering people, especially in parts of the world that haven't benefited as much from technological advancement so far.
It's like giving everyone a chance to thrive, not just those who are already ahead of the game.
Right. And it goes beyond just, handing out resources. It's about using AI to optimize what's already there. Like, imagine a rural community that's struggled to access clean water.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
AI could analyze data on water tables, rainfall patterns, and come up with solutions tailored to that specific community.
It's like giving the tools and the insights to solve their own problems, which is way more powerful than just a quick fix.
Exactly. And the book has some amazing real-world examples of this already happening. Like, there's this project in India where they used AI to help farmers.
Oh, yeah, I read about that. It was incredible. They were able to increase their crop yield significantly just by using AI to analyze the soil and weather conditions.
And that's just one example. The book argues that AI could help with everything from resource allocation to infrastructure development in countries that really need it.
It's like we could use AI to level the playing field, in a way.
Precisely. Create a world where everyone has a chance to succeed no matter where they're starting from.
That's a powerful idea.
Yeah.
And it's not just about economics either, right? The book also talks about how AI could actually strengthen democracy.
It does. That was one of the parts that really surprised me, to be honest.
Me too. It seems a little counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
How can algorithms make governments more transparent?
Well, think of it like this. Imagine AI systems that could monitor government spending in real time.
Oh, and flag anything that looks suspicious.
Exactly. Or track how policies are actually impacting people on the ground.
It's like having a digital watchdog that never sleeps, constantly making sure everything is above board.
Right. And the book argues that this kind of transparency would make it much harder for corruption to flourish.
Because everyone would have access to the same information.
Exactly. And it's not just about catching the bad guys. AI could also be used to make government data more accessible and understandable to everyday citizens.
So instead of these dense reports that nobody has time to read,
we could have AI that translates that data into clear, easy-to-digest summaries and visualizations.
that would be amazing. It would be like giving everyone a crash course in civic engagement.
Exactly. And that's really what the book is getting at. If we do this right, AI could actually empower people to hold their leaders accountable and participate more fully in the democratic process.
That's a really interesting idea. It kind of flips the script on this whole narrative of technology eroding trust in institutions.
It does, doesn't it? It suggests that maybe, just maybe, technology could actually help us strengthen the foundations of a healthy democracy.
Okay, so we've talked about AI's potential to boost economies and even shore up democracy. But what about the big elephant in the room? The impact on jobs.
That's the question everyone wants to know, right?
Absolutely. Are robots coming for our paychecks? I mean, it's the question I hear more than any other when it comes to AI.
It's definitely a hot topic. And the book has a really interesting and, dare I say, optimistic take on it.
Oh, okay, tell me more. Because a lot of the headlines out there are pretty doom and gloom, right? Millions of jobs lost to automation, that kind of thing.
Right. And while the book acknowledges that job displacement is a real concern, it suggests that we might be looking at this the wrong way.
Okay, so how should we be looking at it?
The book argues that instead of viewing AI as a job killer, we should see it as an opportunity to redefine our relationship with work altogether.
Interesting. So walk me through this. How does that work exactly?
Well, think about all the tasks we do at work that are repetitive, maybe even a little soul-crushing. Right?
Oh, I know those all too well, like responding to email.
Exactly, or data entry, or scheduling meetings. Those are all things AI could potentially take off our plates.
Okay, but then what? What happens to all the people who are doing those jobs?
That's where it gets exciting. The book suggests that as AI takes over those more mundane tasks, it frees us humans up to focus on things that machines just aren't good at.
Things that require creativity, problem solving, emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Things that humans excel at. And those are the jobs that will be most in demand in the future.
So it's not so much about losing jobs as it is about a fundamental shift in the types of jobs we do.
Precisely. And the book even suggests that this shift could lead to a resurgence in fields like art, craftsmanship, anything that requires uniquely human skills and creativity.
So instead of asking, what do you do for a living, we might start asking, what are you passionate about?
Exactly. Because work could become less about earning a paycheck and more about pursuing our passions and contributing to society in meaningful ways.
I like that. It's a much more optimistic view of the future. But is it realistic? Can everyone be an artist or an entrepreneur? What about the folks who actually find fulfillment in those more routine jobs?
That's a great question, and it's something the book explores in depth. It really does get into some fascinating territory there. It's not just about, handing everyone a paintbrush and saying, go be creative.
Right, because not everyone finds fulfillment in those traditional creative fields.
Exactly. The book suggests a much more fundamental shift. It challenges us to rethink how we define work and purpose altogether.
Okay, I'm all ears. This is where things always get a little fuzzy for me. How do we separate those things? Our work and our sense of purpose, they feel so intertwined for those people I know.
Right, and the book acknowledges that. It's deeply ingrained in our culture to define ourselves by what we do for a living.
Oh, for sure. So what do you do is like the go-to conversation starter at any social gathering.
Exactly. But what if AI freed us from that? What if our work didn't have to be the defining aspect of our identity?
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Paint me a picture of what that world looks like.
Imagine a world where AI handles those essential, but maybe not so fulfilling tasks, freeing up our time and energy for things we actually care about.
So more time for family, friends, hobbies, pursuing our passions.
Exactly. We could dedicate ourselves to lifelong learning, to community engagement, to rediscovering the things that make us come alive as human beings.
It's like our work wouldn't be our sole purpose anymore. It would be one aspect of a much richer, more multifaceted life.
Exactly. And the book suggests that this could lead to a real renaissance in terms of human creativity and innovation.
Because we'd have the time and mental space to explore new ideas, try new things, without the pressure of work always looming over us.
Exactly. It's like unlocking human potential on a massive scale.
Okay, I have to admit, that's a pretty compelling vision of the future. But let's be real, it's going to take a lot more than just AI automating some tasks to get us there, right? We're talking about a fundamental restructuring of our entire society.
Oh, absolutely. The book doesn't shy away from that. It acknowledges that this kind of shift would require massive social, economic, even political changes.
Like what? Give me some examples. What needs to happen to make this vision a reality?
Well, for starters, we'd need new social safety nets. If traditional jobs are going to be displaced, we need to make sure people have a way to support themselves.
Right, like some form of universal basic income.
That's one idea that's often discussed. We'd also need to rethink our education system.
Oh, absolutely. We need to be preparing people for the jobs of the future, not the jobs of the past.
Exactly. We need to be fostering creativity, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, all those uniquely human qualities that AI can't replicate.
So it's not just about teaching people how to code. It's about teaching them how to think, how to adapt, how to thrive in a world where the rules are constantly changing.
Precisely. And that's a huge challenge, but it's also an incredible opportunity to reimagine what education could and should be.
Okay, so we've talked about the need for social safety nets, for a revamped education system. What else? What other big hurdles do we need to overcome to make this AI-powered future a reality?
Well, one of the biggest challenges the book highlights is ensuring that these changes benefit everyone, not just a select few.
Right, because technology has a way of exacerbating existing inequalities if we're not careful.
Exactly. So we need to be really intentional about how we develop and deploy AI. We need to make sure it's accessible to everyone, not just those with the resources and the know-how.
So it's not just about building cool tech, it's about building it ethically and responsibly.
Precisely. And that requires a much broader conversation than just what's happening in Silicon Valley. We need ethicists, policymakers, social scientists, community leaders all at the table working together to shape the future of AI.
It's like a global conversation about the kind of world we want to create with this technology. And that's a pretty daunting thought, right? I mean, where do we even begin to have that conversation?
It's definitely a big task, but the book emphasizes that it starts with understanding. The more people are informed about AI, about its potential benefits and its risks, the better equipped we'll be to have these crucial conversations and advocate for the kind of future we want to see.
So knowledge is power, as they say, but it's also about imagination, right? It's about daring to dream of a different kind of future. And this book certainly doesn't shy away from that. One of the things that really struck me was its exploration of how AI could unlock new forms of human expression and creativity.
Oh, absolutely. That was one of my favorite parts of the book as well.
Because there's this fear, right, that AI will make human creativity obsolete.
Yeah.
Like robots will be writing the novels and composing the symphonies of the future.
Right. But the book flips that on its head. It suggests that AI could actually amplify human creativity in ways we can't even imagine yet.
So instead of replacing artists, AI becomes a tool, a collaborator, a muse even.
Exactly. Imagine AI helping architects design buildings that are both beautiful and functional. Or musicians create entirely new genres of music.
It's like AI pushing the boundaries of what's creatively possible and humans riding that wave of innovation.
Precisely. And it's not just limited to the arts. Imagine AI assisting scientists in developing life-saving medical treatments, or engineers in designing sustainable cities.
So it's about this synergy between human ingenuity and artificial intelligence working together to solve problems and create a better future.
Exactly. And that brings us back to this idea of responsible development, because with all this potential comes a tremendous amount of responsibility. We need to make sure we're steering this technology in the right direction.
Okay, so we've talked about the amazing potential of AI, but we also need to talk about the risks. What are some of the things that keep you up at night?
Well, job displacement is definitely a big one, right? Even if we're optimistic about new opportunities emerging, there's going to be a period of transition, and some people are going to be hit harder than others.
Right, it's like we can't just assume everyone's going to land on their feet. What about those who might get left behind in this transition? What does the book suggest we do about that?
Well, it talks about the need for stronger social safety nets, for example.
Yeah, like universal basic income. That seems to be an idea that's gaining traction these days.
Exactly. And it makes sense, right? If AI is going to fundamentally change the nature of work, maybe we need to rethink how we provide for people's basic needs.
It's like we have to adapt our social systems to keep up with these technological advancements.
Absolutely. And it's not just about providing a safety net, it's about giving people the tools to adapt and thrive in this new world. So education is another big one.
Right, we touched on that earlier, but it's worth diving into a bit deeper. I mean, what does education even look like in a world where AI is changing the game so rapidly?
It's a great question, and I think the book really challenges us to rethink education from the ground up. It's no longer enough to just teach kids facts and figures.
Right, because AI can probably do that better than any human teacher could.
Exactly. We need to be teaching kids how to think critically, how to solve problems, how to be creative, all those things that AI, at least for now, can't replicate.
It's almost like we need to cultivate those uniquely human skills, the things that make us adaptable and resilient in the face of change.
Precisely, because the one thing we know for sure is that the future is uncertain. The jobs of tomorrow might not even exist today, so we need to prepare kids for that reality.
That's a lot of pressure to put on our education system, though, isn't it?
It is, but it's also an incredible opportunity to rethink what education can and should be. It's about empowering the next generation to not just survive, but thrive in this AI-powered future.
Okay, so we've talked about job displacement, about the need to revamp our education system. What other potential downsides should we be thinking about? What about the potential for AI to be used for, well, not so great purposes?
That's a huge concern, and it's something the book really stresses. We can't just focus on the potential benefits of AI and ignore the risks.
Right, because like any powerful technology, it can be used for good or for evil.
Exactly. So we need to be having conversations about things like algorithmic bias, about the ethics of AI, about how to prevent this technology from being used in harmful ways.
I mean, we've already seen examples of AI systems being used to discriminate against certain groups of people.
Unfortunately, yes, and that's why it's so crucial to make sure that the people developing and deploying these systems are representative of the populations they'll be used on.
And that they're being developed with a strong ethical framework in place.
Absolutely. It's not enough to just say, oh, we'll deal with those problems later. We need to be thinking about these issues from the very beginning.
So it's almost like AI is forcing us to have these really tough conversations about ourselves, about our values as a society.
It really is. And I think that's one of the most important takeaways from this book. AI isn't just about technology. It's about what it means to be human in a world where technology is playing an increasingly central role.
It's like it's holding up a mirror to us, forcing us to confront not just our hopes for the future, but also our fears.
Absolutely. And hopefully, by having these conversations now, by really grappling with these complex issues, we can create a future where AI is a force for good in the world.
A future where it helps us to solve problems, to connect with each other, to live more meaningful lives.
Exactly. That's the dream, isn't it?
Well, this has certainly given our listeners a lot to think about. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the potential of AI to transform society to the very real risks that we need to be aware of. So as we wrap things up, what's the one message you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
Don't be passive observers. This technology is going to impact all of us, so engage with it. Read about it, learn about it, talk about it with your friends and family. And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. The future of AI isn't predetermined, it's something we create together.
It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in shaping the future, even if it's just by starting a conversation. So, to our listeners, we leave you with this. If you could ask an AI to solve one problem in the world, what would it be and why? Let that question be your guide as you navigate this exciting, complex, and ever-evolving world of artificial intelligence. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.